to Tabula Rasa, bitches.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
My name is Allie. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Nick, and my pronouns are he, him.
And welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of Tabula Rasa, bitches.
In Tabula Rasa, bitches, your two co-hosts discuss and dissect Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a show that bonded them together so many years ago. And in this episode, we will be discussing Season 3, Episode 3, Faith, Hope, and Trick.
Before we jump in to the net episode summary, here's a humble ask. It would mean the world to us if you would go to whatever you're using to listen to our show and give us a rating. I mean, hopefully a positive rating. That would be amazing. Those ratings really help us reach more listeners. And another way you can help that is free is if you enjoy our show, share it with some people who you think might also enjoy it, or just, share our Instagram page or whatever. Share, rate. Those help us. While we don't do this show for the audience, we do it for ourselves. It would still be nice to have an audience. So yeah,
that's not true,
that would be
Allie.
much appreciated.
We are not in it to grow the audience arbitrarily. The folks that we do have that we get to engage with are some of our most favorite parts about this.
Yes, that is true. Absolutely. Yes, I just meant we're not all about numbers, but numbers are cool too.
I'm not going to say no.
Yeah. I'm not going to say no to new listeners. Anywho, Nicholas, shall we?
Good plug, Allie. Thank you. With that being said, I will jump into our episode summary. As usual, we're going to do our best to avoid spoilers beyond this episode, but today we will discuss this episode, spoilers and all. Just as Buffy is returning to her somewhat normal life of going to school, hanging out with friends, and saving the world, she is faced with the arrival of an ancient, cloven-hoofed vampire named Kakistos and his blood-sucking sidekick, Mr. Trick. In an extremely interesting coincidence, which Buffy does not believe in, Sunnydale also has another new arrival, a new Slayer named Faith, called to replace Kendra, who died at the end of Season 2. Faith clearly has secrets, but quickly ingratiates herself into Buffy's life. And after Buffy discovers the history between Faith and Kakistos, the two team up to kill him once and for all. In the middle of reading that summary, Allie took a screenshot, and that is really funny because we forgot to do it at the end. And Allie, you got to smile at the camera. That was just a crime against humanity, what you just did to me. Okay. Well, whatever. That's going to be a fun one to post.
Yep. Anywho, what struck me as I was preparing to put this on was how a new person, if this was their first time watching this episode, they would have no clues as to what this episode is about. To anyone who is familiar with the show, the title Faith, Hope, and Trick, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is where we meet Faith and we meet Mr. Trick.
And Scott Hope.
It wouldn't be a giveaway. And Scott Hope. Oh,
I didn't realize that until I was doing pre-research. I was like, what is that? Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, he's so not important to the series that.
Oh, but yeah, he has a nice start, and for some reason there have definitely been times in my life where I was like, justice for Scott. Like, no one remembers Scott. Everybody just talks about Angel and Riley, but he's all right. He's aight. He's still a male, am I right? Anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it's interesting how for anyone rewatching, that is a giveaway, and anyone new, it is not. So we start off strong with so much Oz, which makes me happy. The first quote of this episode that I wrote down. So the group is going to head off to step off campus for the first time because now they're seniors. They can go off campus for lunch. And Willow is taking in this moment. And Oz says, oh, I like you, Giddy. Always have. It's just adorable.
This is such a darling moment. Yeah, Willow is preparing to come off campus, and her friends clearly know her very well because Xander and Cordelia come up behind her, and Xander and Oz both grab her by the arm, and she's immediately like, no, I can't. What if I get in trouble? What if they change the rules? Yeah.
I love it. That wasn't an option for us, right?
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
if you were in an internship, you could leave campus, but there was definitely no, like, going to lunch off
Yeah,
campus.
no going off campus for lunch. Yeah, the liability that you would incur and the keeping track of kids who yeah, absolutely not. It's a great idea, but definitely a TV idea. I don't know that that would really go well in the real world.
And not just TV. I know my mom got to, but that's small town
Really?
Catholic school. Oh, yeah, yeah, they got to go
I
off
wonder
campus
how many
for lunch.
students were in her class because with the right number, you could feasibly handle that.
Mm. Not a lot.
Yeah, we had hundreds.
She knew all of her yeah. Yeah, we had hundreds. She had, I don't know, probably less than 100 would be
Interesting.
my guess. I'm sure she'll correct me later when she listens to this episode.
Listeners, report in if you were allowed to go off campus for lunch in high school. So Buffy has made a picnic and it's very cute. As they're walking up, they're talking about how they should decouple because they don't want to make Buffy feel like the fifth
Mhm.
wheel. And Cordelia has my first quotable quote from Cordelia of the episode. She says, "Oh, you mean because of how the only guy that ever liked her turned into a vicious killer and had to be put down like a dog?" And that is hilarious, but incorrect. There have been plenty of men along the way who have liked Buffy and they did
Yes,
not turn into vicious killers.
that is correct. The first relationship, definitely not her or the first person to ever have a crush on Buffy. And so they're commenting, they're like, "Oh, yeah, Martha Stewart, eat her heart out." Because Buffy has prepared this very adorable picnic for everybody, and someone says, like, "Yeah, but Martha couldn't, slay a vampire." And Oz says, "Oh, I heard she can, but she doesn't like to." First of all, that's just, like, a really funny quip, but I think it's also funny because I think it's more appropriate of a joke now more than ever as she's, like, post having been to prison. She's now, like, best buds with Snoop
Yeah, there's
Dogg.
this
Like, she
resurgence where
definitely
she's
has more
total
of, like, a rep
queen. Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that was, like, before we knew that side of her, so I think it's funny how that normally things don't age well, but that has actually super aged well.
Buffy was ahead of its time.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
they're talking about how Buffy is continuing to try to get into school. They have a meeting with Snyder tomorrow to keep shaking him down, and then Scott Hope walks up and he says hi to Buffy.
Yes, it's so cute, and I was just gonna say my first fashion comment for this episode, I love this soft girl moment that Buffy is having. She's got, like, the sweater and a pretty floral sundress, and she has this super cute butterfly clip in her hair, which is very 90s, very soft girl, and it's just after everything she's been through, it feels nice to see her in this light.
Mm,
She's not in the, like, the leather, the fighting, she's, like, having a picnic with her friends, and it's very
not
nice.
in the deep red. We're back to, teenage Buffy.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think doing, like, on the spot script analysis, I think this is very intentional because once Faith comes in, I think it's a stark contrast to the, like, leather and boots of Faith to, like, the floral prints of
We
Buffy.
might say it's our favorite J word.
You're right. It is setting up a beautiful juxtaposition.
Ah,
You're right, that is my favorite J
God,
word.
that was nice.
Very nice. So, yeah, so we have a little Scott we got introduced to Scott Hope,
Scott Hope, indeed. There's this
basic,
moment
adorable,
where
nice guy.
Willow says something to Buffy along the lines of, "Oh yeah, do that thing that guys like you to do with your mouth." And Buffy looks at her, and little kid Nick watching this didn't get the blowjob joke there, but
Really? Yeah.
but then she
Yeah, just
clarifies that
oh,
she's talking
right over
about
my
a
head.
half smile thing, and
Yep.
Willow is
Yeah.
very cute as Scott walks by, which is the most benign interaction ever. Sweet, but benign. And she goes, "I think that went very well. Don't you think that went well?"
It is, it's nice, and I don't know, it's this lovely that early stage of, like, the butterflies every time you see somebody and just, like, how even just, like, the hello is so significant because it's, like, every little move, everything I don't know. I love that beginning stuff of a relationship
Yeah, we overanalyze stuff with boys all the time.
ad
We would
nauseum.
have done the exact
Hmm.
same thing. "Oh, he glanced at me for half a second as opposed to a second. What does that
Hmm.
mean? What is that?" Yeah.
He said hello first,
Yeah.
and I said hello back, but he was the first one to approach and say hello. Yeah, he is in this episode. He does a lot of really great. Well, I have a comment on one of his moves
Mhm,
later
mhm.
that I have a feeling you'll agree with. But yeah, he makes very definite, very hard and fast signs like, I am interested. Please respond. That I think is very nice. It's definitely, he is not ambiguous about his intentions at all in a very nice, like, not creepy way,
Men
which
everywhere
is great.
take notes, except for one thing that
Mhm.
he does that we'll get into later. Okay, anyways, so I have one more quote.
Okay.
So I think Buffy's kind of pushing back on the idea of, getting back into it or whatever. And she says, "All right, yes, I want to date and shop and hang out and go to school and save the world from unspeakable demons. I want to do girly stuff."
Yes, I loved that. I loved that. That first scene is just so wonderful. It is definitely like a perfect example of why this is my favorite season. Just it's just like really hitting its groove and everyone's clicking. And now we're gonna have the introduction of a couple more characters who I also love as characters. So um are we at the drive-through?
We're at the drive-through, the limo rolls up. I have just a cost of living note here. Mr. Trick is in the car with a we get a sense of it. We get a sight of his clove hand. But that's it so far.
Mhm.
He orders a diet soda and it's 89 cents. And just ouch, because that is not what that costs anymore. Sorry to be a boomer, but whatever.
It's true, it's true. But, it's still probably only like $1 or so.
Mm, we can
Medium
we
soda?
can test that. We'll that's a good question, actually. It's for sure, I don't know. When
It's
McDonald's,
definitely not 89 cents, but it's not much more.
I don't know, Allie, we'll see. Mr. Trick
Okay.
also makes a note that Sunnydale is full of white people, and I'm glad that
Yes,
he
I
said
love him calling out the whiteness of Sunnydale. It's awesome.
that.
This introduction to him, I love Trick. Like, actually, if I had to do like a top 10 favorite characters of the season of the series, like Trick might actually make the list because he is just there's something so rich about the second we meet him. He's already giving us like the way that he talks, the kind of like things he's calling out, where he's talking about like, yes, he likes how they call him sir and all this stuff. He's so fun.
Mhm, mhm.
He's just such a great addition to the show.
I have a trivia note about him when we get to that section at the end because yeah, he's just a great bad guy.
Oh, okay. I might have to before you tell that, I'm gonna guess what it is because I have a feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they establish that so Trick is saying something and then the ugly dude that he's in the car with makes clear that we're here for one thing. That's the quote. And Mr. Trick says
Yep.
to kill the Slayer. Yeah. And all of us are like, oh no, Buffy's in danger, which is funny.
I know, because we don't yeah. Yeah, and I love his response where he's like, "Yeah, yeah, like, but we could do other things too." Like, just this great air. And then we're at the theme
I
song?
just have one final note that the kid that he manages to kill in that restaurant, my guy, I'm
Oh,
not trying to victim blame here, but I'm gonna need you to lean far back from that window there. You didn't have to die there. You were unaware of your surroundings.
no, I just of all the things that, like, you would maybe potentially encounter as a drive-through window service person, I really don't think
Having
that's
somebody
on your list
launch
of,
at
like,
you? Having somebody
"Oh,
launch at you? You think
yeah."
that's not among the things that you would be like, in a worst case scenario, what could happen here?
Maybe grab your hand, but, like, I
There are
don't know.
videos of non of humans launching themselves at the window.
See, at launching themselves at the window, not, like, grabbing you and pulling you out.
But
Then
then we layer in the Sunnydale aspect to it.
that's yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I have
That's
a
true.
trivia note
I don't know.
about
I
this
just don't.
gentleman too.
I'm just more thinking like this poor guy. He's on the night shift. He is like almost definitely the one of maybe three people there because it's like you can see it does not. It's not hustling and bustling.
Mm.
So it's like I just poor guy.
I will
I was a little more sympathetic.
agree with you. I do feel sympathy for him, but you know. All right, that's my comment for the night that'll get me canceled. That's good. Now we're at intro.
Okay, so I noticed one of the first shots of the intro is the gang all running because we have to have a running shot. And Faith is in the group in that running shot. Has it I didn't care enough to answer this question to actually like go back and watch the intro from the last two episodes, but like so has Faith been in the intro from the beginning of the season?
That's a very good question. I actually don't know the answer to that.
I guess so. My guess would be I mean, again, very easy to answer this question. I just simply didn't.
That could be fun to figure that
That was
out.
just
We'll
interesting.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Neat.
So it's just like it's been a little hint that was there the first two episodes.
Yeah, neat. We'll have to go back and see. So we are at the Bronze and there's slow sensual music playing. And oops, actually, we're not at the Bronze. It's a dream. There's been a lot of dream sequences this season.
Hmm.
And I think the whole antithesis of this scene is that Buffy feels extraordinary guilt still over Angel because she drops
Yes,
the
definitely.
ring and he starts bleeding and he tells her to go to hell. And then we see Ugly Angel. He says, I did. And it's
Yeah.
quite sad.
I just have the note. I bet Angel's shirt is so soft. Doesn't it look like just like a really soft shirt?
It does. I think it's
I don't know.
interesting he only wears white when he bleeds.
Yeah,
Or like
that's
in
fair. Yeah,
dreams.
because
I
it's
think we see him in
not
an
normally
undershirt a few
white.
times, but yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely in some white A shirts, but yeah. And you've got this the super weird the Scoobies all just like staring at them. Very
Yeah,
funny.
what does that
And some
mean
great
from a
special
dream analysis
what
perspective? What does it mean? Like that was intentional that in this dream sequence the
yes,
Scoobies are
definitely.
watching.
So I think it's also the pressure that not only is she feeling this guilt about killing Angel that the group doesn't know about because they think she just killed Angelus.
Mm.
It's also the pressure I think she feels to move on because also they're
Mm.
all very like blank faced.
Mhm.
There's no sympathy in their faces. There's no like reactions or whatever. And in just the last scene, we have Willow pressuring
Mm.
her to start dating again, even though they say like it's a month for every year you were together,
Oh, cool.
right?
Well, that's
Month
helpful
of
for my I thought it was half the length we were together, and I was looking at myself being recently single off of my okay, good. I was like 4.5
yeah, it's a
years. Oh
month
my
for
god.
well, one of the measurements is like a month of mourning for every year you were together.
Wow. Whoa.
And if we're counting the first season, so that's like at least 2 months. And that's not counting special circumstances for like how you broke up. I think that also adds time to your clock. And I'll get into later how not good of friends I think they are being currently. But
Yeah.
that's what I think the little peanut gallery is. It's like her feeling very watched and not feeling like she can have this time to deal with her angel emotions because they're all just like watching her and her feeling like she has to like hurry up and be okay.
Wow, that was incredible analysis, Allie. And I also
Thank you.
share, I'm excited to hear more about your perspective of them being needlessly pushy because I think I share it too. Good.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Oh, and just the last thing was some great that's I think that's some really great special effects when he goes all charred and like hell, I've been in hell face.
mm,
Just some really good
ugly, 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 clear to
aiming
decaying.
makeup.
Yeah.
He can still get it.
Yeah. Agree.
I said it.
Yeah, put a bag over the face. It'll be fine. We'll be okay. You're like, doesn't even need a bag over the face.
Doesn't even need a bag. Yep.
So it's noteworthy to me that in her nightstand, when she wakes up, she has the Clawda still on a chain. And then Joyce comes
Mhm.
in.
His Claudia. not hers, his cloud.
I
She
didn't know
kept
that.
That's his. That's why it's on a chain because it would be too big on her finger. She couldn't wear it.
Allie, you are very perceptive tonight. Usually you're just so dumb. This is amazing.
Well, part of it is because I too have a significant other's ring on a chain because it doesn't fit me.
Oh,
Our first Christmas together, Hayden gave me his dad's wedding band.
stop it.
So I have a ring
Oh,
on a chain. So like I know what it means when a ring is on a
oh,
chain.
stop it. God, I'm gonna throw up all over you. God,
There were
that's so
lots of
cute. I
shots of
love it.
her in this episode showing that she clearly has a couple rings on, and I just none of them were ever clear enough for me to notice if she was wearing her clasp.
Mm,
My assumption is that one of those rings was, but it was never quite clear enough that I could tell.
maybe that's something else we can do some sleuthing about. Who knows? Listeners, let us know if you have any of that fancy FBI technology. Let's you zoom in.
Please do.
So Joyce and Buffy are meeting with Snyder. Snyder is highly unhappy because he has to allow Buffy back in. He's presenting a list of ridiculous demands that I don't think would hold up under any sort of legal scrutiny. But I guess Buffy's just choosing the path of least resistance and is going to comply with them. Because if she's been cleared of wrongdoing, I don't think that you can put on conditions to
Absolutely
allow
not.
her back. Yeah, he's out, but that's not surprising.
And I think what Joyce says, or what Buffy, whoever says, we went over your head, and they say that you have to provide education to anyone not in prison. I think that is them saying that, like, everything you just said is BS. You have to educate her. So she's coming back to school. I think in that statement is them saying, like, yeah, I'm not going to do any of that.
Mm. Well, she does. She complies with all of it. She takes a makeup test.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I forgot. Yeah, about the makeup tests. But I feel like that is also just a condition of her. Like, I think the makeup tests are actually fair as far as like the school that she missed and her being able to, like, rather than entirely retake those classes, being able to continue forward. I think the makeup tests are actually pretty reasonable.
But we're gonna see the letter recommendation. We're gonna see the psychologist. I think that they
Oh, you're
were.
right. They do comply.
I agree
Yeah, I
with you
think
that
they're just glad to have her back.
I think that they were saying this is BS and we know it's BS, but they were like, you know what? We'll just we'll
Yeah.
whatever. We'll do it.
Well, and I feel like Joyce on her end is probably like,
Yeah.
"You ran
Yeah.
away. This is what you get. You gotta sleep in the bed you made,"
Yeah, I bet
that
you're
kind of
right.
thing. But I love this petty moment they have in the
Oh, it's
office.
so good.
Yes, Joyce just going, "I think what my daughter means is na 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 na." I'm like, "Yeah, mom. Yes."
They just walk out triumphant. Yeah, Joyce, let be petty in this moment. Just do it.
Well, because he's just being so objectively awful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, despite what feelings she may have, I think it's also one of those things of like, I can discipline my child or like I can be hard on my kid. You can't be that hard on my kid. That kind of like defensive of like, yeah, I can make fun of my sibling. You can't say the same shit that I would.
yeah, totally. So they walk out triumphant. Good shit. And
Mhm.
Buffy walks into the library, and Giles starts asking her about Akathla. And he is kind of spinning this story about how he needs to make sure, he talks about a binding spell, about how he needs to make sure Akathla is actually done. And Willow asks if she can help, and Giles says, yeah, with the research. And he's,
Mhm.
I think, making clear that he's not super thrilled about her continuing in the witchy stuff.
Yeah. And we have this moment where Buffy is like, "That's okay, Giles. Like, you don't have to say how happy you are that I'm back and blah 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 blah." And Giles says something about, well, of course it does go without saying, but you enjoy making me say it. And you know what? As someone who needs verbal communication, I'm with Buffy. I don't
Mm,
care if I know that you're proud of me or like I know that you're happy to have me back. I still like to hear it too. The words are still important to me, even though like of course she knows that Giles is like, of course, happy that she's back. I'm with her. Make him say it.
yeah, 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 yeah. When somebody goes through something terrible like that, of course you say
Mhm.
Yay, it's done. Welcome back. So glad to have
Right.
you here. Yeah, I'm with her too.
Should, like, be gifting her a fancy pen or something, like,
Ooh, I like that.
celebrate it. I'm all about, yeah, celebrate the moments. Yeah, Giles clearly still not psyched about Willow dabbling in magic, which given his youthful dalliances, to say it lightly, I can see where he would be apprehensive. I kind of feel like he's not giving Willow enough credit because she's a pretty cautious, careful person herself.
I might have encouraged him to
What
see.
do you think?
I think that Giles, as somebody who went down the wrong path, could see a somebody around the same age that he was starting to be interested in it, and rather than saying "Don't do that," could say "Let's practice this together."
That's what I was gonna say, because just completely, like, banning somebody from something never works,
Yeah.
literally in the history of ever. Yeah, I agree. Definitely, I think would be more constructive to have a, well, if you're gonna do it, let's learn the right way kind of situation. Like parents who teach their kids how to drink properly, like at home, so they don't like lose their minds when they leave the house.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that would be more productive.
And that feels like an apt comparison, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially will become
Yeah.
more apt as time goes on.
Yeah, well.
But not for quite some time. Um, I will say I'm still kind of upset with Buffy not telling Willow that the spell worked. I mean, I see why, and I see why she would avoid talking about it in just totally in general. Because clearly they have not been supportive about her grieving process. But in that same vein, I think they would have been maybe more understanding if she had been honest that, like, it worked. I killed Angel, not Angelus. I feel like they would maybe give her more leeway. I don't know. I just don't like, because the same way that Buffy is carrying guilt for what she did, I think Willow's been carrying guilt as well for her spell not working.
Yeah, I bet Buffy is saying to herself, she can't know that it worked and I had to she can't know that it worked and that it was too late and I had to kill him anyways and I killed Angel because that's too much of a burden to put on my friends. But I agree that it's the we've run into this so many times where if it was like if everybody just shared a skosh more,
Yeah.
it would be better for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Although as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of more of both, more points on both sides. Because also, like, if we think back to Dead Man's Party, Willow has not been the greatest friend to Buffy. She has not been the most understanding, which I can see where that would make it harder to confide in her in future times. We like to think that, like, oh, we're moved on, we're all better and stuff, but like, if we're really doing this analysis, I can see where that would factor in.
I don't know, listeners weigh in. We have to keep moving, Allie. So
Okay, you're right.
let's see. Okay, so Buffy runs off to take an exam. She has just shared kind of a lot of details about the slaying of Angel, and she shares a lot, but not that his soul was restored. And then after Buffy leaves, Giles and Willow have another exchange about how Giles wants Willow to like chill on the magic stuff.
Yep.
So we're back at the Bronze that night, and we get a shot
Right.
of who we learn is Faith and a vampire dancing. They kind of they
Mhm.
kind of fade in, but once you're watching for it, you're like, yeah, that's pretty cringy what they're doing.
Yeah. As well, especially because it's so dissonant the way that, like, she's being like very hot and sexy dancing. He's like super dork. But anyway, yeah, so the group is gathered. Buffy comes in. We learn that she has passed her English makeup test. Uh, and then Scott comes in, and I find this adorable. They're like, "Scott, what are you doing here?" And Scott says, "You told me if I came after 8, I could run into Buffy." That's like, okay, that was adorable.
Oh,
He's like,
Scott.
"Sorry, I don't like lying," and it's just, it's very precious and sweet and endearing. I think there's something particularly attractive of him just being open and plain and normal. I think that becomes very attractive given Buffy's situation and her history. Something just sweet and nice.
Yeah, there's no
Yep.
the yeah, it's very pure. It's very
Mhm.
yeah, very wholesome, which is nice. Yeah, I like it too. And so Scott asks her to dance. He's like cringy but adorable. It's like the endearing kind of you're a dork. Oh my goodness. And
Yeah.
and Buffy declines. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna wait over here. You change your mind, you come over, which is also very mature of him. And Willow's like, come on, go get him, go get him.
And Oz says, plus bonus points for the use of the word mosey. Agreed, Oz.
Oz has some good
Agreed.
lines in this episode. So
Yeah. It's a lot of Oz in this episode, and I'm here for it.
Cordelia and Xander come over, and Cordelia has noticed Faith, who's dancing, and they make some comment about how the guy is dancing strangely, and Buffy is like, well, he's clearly a vampire.
Yeah. It's very similar to what she noticed in Pilot
Hmm.
with she's mentioning the fashion and stuff, and she was like, "Oh, he's not just like a dorky dancer. Because Cordelia's comment sounds like he hasn't listened to anything since Casey and the Sunshine Band,
That
which
was
is
what it
a
was.
yeah, it's like which is like a disco group. So it's like that's why he's dancing that way because that's when like he was probably alive. Same with the fashion.
And same in that pilot, Buffy notices the things that she says is the clothes, but we all know that she's like
Yeah.
picking it. There's some Slayer vibes going on here too.
Oh yeah. Well, she's noticing that and interpreting that information through her Slayer lens. Of like, yeah, that's not just somebody who's like a few months behind. This is somebody who's decades behind.
Mhm.
But side note, everything I know about sexy club dancing, I learned from Faith.
She
That's it.
is
That's enough.
yeah, I thought about this too. She's dancing sexily. The lights are fully on and she's not drunk. I could never ever. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
anyways, but certainly not under those circumstances, and she's just out having a good time. Good for her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just like some hot girl privilege. Like, that's just
Good
that.
for her. Work it, girl. Okay, so Buffy goes so Faith and the vampire leave. Buffy goes to follow them. She gets stopped by poor Scott, who thinks that she's coming to dance with him. And there's kind of a twist here because everybody goes outside and they expect to see this girl getting killed. And nope, it is Faith wailing on this guy.
And before they see them, Willow says, "That's not what making out sounds like, unless I'm doing it wrong." Very sweet.
No, Willow, you're not doing it wrong.
Definitely not.
I think this is a pretty epic intro to Faith. Just side note.
Yeah. Well, and something that I noticed, and again, it's probably, knowing the end of this episode, coloring how I feel. She's like, I feel like she's wailing on him to a point that she could have ended it sooner.
Hmm.
And so I think this is just like right off the bat, us seeing her enjoying the fight and kind of just like relishing in the fight rather than it being simply to serve the purpose of slaying
Hmm.
or, fighting them off to get to an opening to then slay them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because she like grabs the steak from Buffy, but I just feel like, yeah, she had enough of the upper hand, I think, that she could have ended it sooner.
That's going to come up in my hot take section.
Yeah.
Okay, so cut to commercial. Afterwards, we're back inside, and Faith is kind of regaling everybody with their stories. She tells one about being naked, and Xander is just ogling. And Faith
Xander,
has this
come on.
quote. She says, I could eat a horse. Isn't it crazy how slaying just always makes you hungry and horny?
Yep, I wrote that one down too. That's a pretty famous one.
And they all just look at Buffy
Yep.
like, do you have something to say?
Yeah, they definitely don't view slaying the same way. Faith mentions Boston, that she was like slaying this guy in Boston. Eliza Dushku, the actress who plays Faith, is actually from Boston.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, she's a Boston native. I remember because she posted a lot about it, and she did a lot of like hometown community service after the Boston Marathon bombings.
Mm. What was the show she was in about the ghosts that she would help move on? Do you remember the show? Am I right that it was her?
I do. Yeah, 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 yeah. I think it was a bit after Angel, maybe.
Was it after or was it before? True Calling. Boom. It was after, you're right.
True Calling. Oh, there it is. There it is. True Calling. Yeah, I never actually watched it. Sure, it was
Only
good.
on for 2 seasons. I remember liking it. Huh.
Yeah. Well, and then she was on Dollhouse, which is just a masterclass.
Hmm.
Um, just the number of different characters that she plays. It's the same level of energy that the lead in Orphan Black. Like just the number of very distinct characters that she plays is just astounding. Anywho, so Faith is regaling them with her exciting tales, and we see that Buffy is clearly not enjoying these tales. She's not enjoying the fawning that all of her friends are. And honestly, as someone who is very territorial over their friends, I'd be with you, Buff. This is completely someone coming in on her turf and them just like all being immediately enamored and during a time when she's already feeling isolated from her friends. I'm with her.
Also, they're not being it's not just Buffy feeling like she's encroaching. They are talking over Buffy when Buffy starts to tell the story of the rocket
And
launcher that Faith asks about, and they like cut her off.
which is a fucking badass
Yeah,
story.
yeah, like yeah, yeah. Buffy's friends are not the winners in this episode. Between the
Definitely not. Which is also like thinking about it again. Why would they interrupt her to tell that story? Because like Xander, that's where you got to use your military experience to go steal a rocket launcher from an army base. Wouldn't you want her to tell that story?
yeah,
Clearly being some dumb bitches
yeah, they
here.
are not being even strategic. Yeah, agree. So
No.
I think we also established that Faith is in Sunnydale because her watcher is at some retreat in England, and they're surprised that Giles isn't there. There's this whole talking over Buffy bullshit. It's not ideal.
Yep, yep.
So the next day they're all in the library, and I guess Giles is filling in, and Giles says of the conference that the One Watcher is at that he's not. He says, "It's a great honor to be invited, or so I'm told." Oh, ouch.
Yeah. Poor
I also would have
Giles.
thought that as the one of two Watchers who's currently assigned to Slayer, he would be at all of the Watcher conferences, but what do I know?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's like he's the most important. Shouldn't they be like using all of their resources to support this watcher? Because it's not like they give him the excuse of like, well, you're on active duty. You can't take time away.
Yeah.
Because that would be like sort of understandable. No, he just like isn't invited.
Yep.
So poor Giles.
Faith hits on Giles, which is strange. Faith says, "If I had known they came that young and cute, I would have requested a transfer." And it's not that I disagree with her.
Correct.
It's just bold.
Gold saying it like in front of everybody. This isn't like a girls' night sleepover. You were like, okay, come on, guys. Don't you think that Giles is cute? No, this is like to his face in front of everybody. This is, I mean, she doesn't know Buffy well enough at this point, but like, this is Buffy's dad you're talking about.
Yeah, right. And
So,
and
like,
he's
can
right
you
there
chill?
too. Yeah.
And he's right there. And he's right there. Yeah. And also, kind of weird, he clearly likes it
Yeah.
and is
Ew.
very flattered.
Yeah.
So also strange. Yeah, just lots of I don't know why. I feel like they went too far having everybody's everybody so charmed by her. Like
Yeah.
it's clearly not Buffy's insecurity. It's what's actually happening.
That also comes up in my hot take section. Man, Allie, you are setting me up here. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
So Buffy's going to get pressured into inviting Faith to dinner after they patrol together. And I'm not mad that, I mean, you should invite her to dinner. Like, you guys are both Slayers and
That
shit.
I
So
agree
I,
with.
I do agree with that. But it is still the force closest, whatever.
I'm with you that like I agree that them bonding and maybe even Faith having a parental figure while her watcher is supposedly at this conference, like those are positive things, but it's just it's a stack of lots of like little things picking on Buffy.
Right.
So
Buffy asks Willow if she could have some help studying for the health science makeup, and Willow blows her off to give
go
Faith
hang out
a tour
with
of the
Faith.
school, which is really fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then uh so they're on the tour. They're saying all of the different spots that stuff has happened. And they run into Scott and Faith immediately starts flirting. And Willow's on board.
Yeah.
What the actual fuck? Because like Buffy comes up and she's like, "Yay, against who passed her thing." And she's like, "What's everybody looking at?" And Willow's like, "Yeah, maybe Faith would be good for Scott. I mean, if you're done with him." Like, the actual fuck, Willow?
Willow told Scott to go to the Bronze at a certain time to run into Buffy the previous night.
Like, honestly, fuck you, Willow. I don't know what's gotten into you. I don't know what's going on. Like, this is not
Yeah,
okay.
we're gonna need to figure this out, homegirl.
Yeah.
Give me my wholesome Willow back, please.
Please and thank you. I'd like to return to where you were at the beginning of the episode. Thanks.
Yep. So we have this scene where I think the point of the scene between Kakistos and Mr. Trick is that Mr. Trick is continuing to have a different vision for what their life could look like, and Kakistos has a one-track mind on killing the Slayer, and we learn that the Slayer that he's trying to kill is Faith.
Yep. Yeah, it didn't come for Buffy.
Yep.
Yeah. Mr. Trick is trying to revolutionize them, bring them into the 21st century. Keystos just doesn't share the vision.
Nope. And it'll ultimately be his undoing. Okay, so we're eating dinner. I have a lot of feelings about this scene too, as if I don't have a lot of
Oh my
feelings
god,
about
so
every
many
single scene.
feelings. I know. And just on top of everything, like Willow's betraying her, and then like Joyce is on this train too. Like, can Buffy fucking catch a break?
And Joyce completely says Faith relishes in the fighting, and Joyce cheers Faith on in relishing in the fighting. And that is completely different from how Joyce hates the violence. And now she's like, oh, yeah, why
Right.
don't you enjoy it more? Why don't you can't be so negative? You can't, like,
Yeah.
what do you
Why
want
can't you
from
be more like
her?
that? Yeah. Yeah. Why not be so negative? I mean, because I do understand later she's like, well, Faith really enjoys it. What if she just took over and you got to like just be normal and go to college? And I understand that instinct because come on, Buff, you've also had that thought since you've had other because actually they all brought up the same thing with Kendra. So it's not a new position, but she again, somebody talks over Buffy
Mm-hmm.
as she's trying to say something, and Joyce just like completely taking her side and just ugh. And we come to a quote from Joyce, which I think is undeniably the gayest moment of this
Oh
episode.
my God,
And
yes.
she says, "I have tried to march in the Slayer Pride Parade." You're like, okay, well that metaphor isn't subtle.
Yeah. And when you watch it with the subtitles on, pride is capitalized too, which
What?
just
Really?
makes it even more clear. Yeah.
So funny. Well, which is really interesting because talk about things that we didn't used to notice. When I was first watching Buffy, this was before I was aware of like the literal organized pride parades,
Mhm,
not just like pride being like yay,
mhm,
taking
mhm.
your pride in something. Yeah. So yeah, that line takes on completely different context as I'm watching it now.
It's so fantastic. I wrote down that quote too as the gayest moment of the episode. I do want to put a fine point on this. There is something particularly morally bankrupt to me about Joyce. Okay, she doesn't like when Buffy is violent. And then when Faith is violent, she's like, oh, great, she likes it. She is saying like, so if her motive from cheering on Faith enjoying slaying is to get her daughter to not have to do it, then you are sending another girl the same age to do the
Yes.
shit that you don't want your daughter to do.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely sacrificing somebody else to save the safety of your own child.
Which I get, like, is a thing that happens, but it's still I just
Yeah, it's still really not great. Yeah, or she's just like very weirdly compartmentalizing, like she's cheering on Faith's enthusiasm for the gig, but doesn't love violence. And then she also like is it in the scene when Buffy's like, all right, I'm going to take down Kakistos, and they're like, well, Faith should go with you. It must be, I think it's a later Scooby scene. Because they're saying like, "Well, two Slayers are better than one, right?" Uh, but Joyce is just saying like, "Oh, well, she could take over." Yeah,
there's probably all sorts
it's
of
messed
mental
up,
gymnastics happening.
and this is where Joyce learns that Buffy died.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whoops.
she says, I wrote down this quote, she says, "Oh, I hate this. I hate your life." And I wrote down, "That's reasonable, actually."
Cool. Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. It's again the word choice.
Yeah.
Like I think we talked about this on the podcast before, but if we didn't, I remember ages ago asking my mom, hypothetically, if I were gay, like what would be your response? And she'd be like, "Well, of course I wouldn't care. I would just be my heart would hurt for the difficulty that you would face in your life." And I thought that was a really sweet way
Yeah,
of saying like, "Of course I would accept you. I just wouldn't like what you would be going through."
yeah, ideal response.
And
Yep.
right. It was a really lovely response. Julie gets an A plus. And it's like that kind of wording that I feel like is what Joyce was going for, but completely missed the mark on the actual words that came out of her mouth.
Ugh,
Like, I hate your life. And
ugh, that was
that wasn't it.
Do you wanna try that again? That wasn't what you meant, come on. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're patrolling.
Uh,
This is some good
mhm.
stuff that happens here.
That's
They're
fair.
patrolling, and Faith is like, "Haven't we been down here before?" And Buffy's like, "Yeah," but they come back, and then Faith says, "You've been doing this the longest," and Buffy says, "I have." And she says, "Maybe a little too long," and just the fiery sparks between them. "Kiss, girls, kiss, do it."
Oh, sorry. Is this supposed to be the gayest moment? So they get into this fight. They run up on some Kakistos cronies, and actually, in a move that I love, Faith picks up a big trash can and puts it on the vampire to kind of like contain him, and then like
Yeah, wasn't
kicks
that
him.
great? That was great.
And I was like, that was a great moment. That was some really good Slayer using your surroundings. I liked that. And then uh I I think this is Faith revealing some of her own history. She says, "My dead mother hits harder than that."
Oh, oh.
Woof.
Wow, we just said a lot with that. Oh,
We
man.
just said a lot, which like could theoretically being like could just be like something she just said to be a Slayer quip, but I get the feeling, given the I don't know everything about Faith, I get the feeling that it's true.
Well, and just this whole scene, you find a lot about Faith, how she just just zones in and just wails on this guy to the detriment of Buffy too.
Right.
And she says, "You can't touch me," and
Yes. Which is it? Which again was like that also makes me think about other potential events in her past life.
Buffy's just like, "There's something wrong with you, girl.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
almost
And
died."
then of course right. And then of course Faith's like, I thought you said you could handle yourself. And it's like, okay, yes. I do believe that Buffy would have handled it. I mean, she did handle it. But it's also that like, but you're here, so you might as well help.
Right.
Like we're supposed to be a team
I
here.
can indeed handle
Yeah.
it, and also that does not negate the fact that you dropped the ball hardcore here.
Right. To sit there and pummel this guy,
Right.
which isn't actually helpful because it's a vampire.
Yes.
You actually beating him to a pulp isn't helpful for anybody.
Right.
It's distracting,
Right.
but That's it.
Okay,
Yep.
so we're back at school.
Mhm.
Buffy is debriefing with Giles, and we're doing this gaslighting Buffy thing again, where Buffy's like, "This was not okay," and Giles is like, "Yeah, she got carried away. She's new to this. Oh my god, if we don't stop."
If we don't start trusting Buffy's instincts, I'm going to reach through the screen and throttle each and every one of you.
Absolutely. So Buffy said, or Giles says that he'll try to reach out to Face Watcher to learn more. And Buffy also says kissing toast. And Giles knows that she's talking about Kakistos. And he's like, oh shit.
Kissing toast? Maybe taquitos? Maybe he lived for taquitos?
I live for taquitos. I get it.
I was gonna say, like,
I think it's interesting here that the part of what made the master so strong was just that he was such an ancient vampire, and now we have a
mhm.
vampire who's just kind of appearing for an episode, and he's like the power scaling that is going to happen throughout the series. We're kind of watching play out and talk to the master. Also had like
Yeah.
mind abilities and stuff, but it's like, oh, I
Mhm.
thought that the master was like a one time. Okay, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, and also I think part of like the reason the master was in his situation was why he was so weakened. Like he was like a big deal, but was temporarily weakened, and that's why they had to have like the harvest and all of that. Whereas Kikistos is like still very powerful
Mm.
and is like up and about. And also just very interesting the idea that he's so ancient, his hands and feet are cloven, as in the original vampires were closer to demons. And it's just interesting for the like the demonology lore.
Mm.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I would read a spin-off novel about that.
There might even be
Yeah. I'll have to look into it.
vampire tales.
So Buffy's like, this is a lot of coincidences that this ancient vampire happened to come into town the same time as my
Mhm.
new little sister. Mm, mm,
Yep. Which did make me wonder, like, do we think Faith is the same age?
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, it's hard to tell because, neither of them are genuinely
A really good
17,
question.
18.
That's a really good question.
Like, canonically, do we think they're the same age? I think I just kind of always assumed that they were, but
I could see Faith being a little
I don't
older.
know. Or younger. I was actually gonna say I could see her being
Oh,
a little younger.
interesting. Huh.
Not, like, by much, but maybe, like, a year or so, like, enough that she's just going with the whole, like, the over enthusiastic, the
Mm,
uh, lack of foresight, lack of forethought, overreactive, like those are all very like young qualities. So thinking of the possibility of her not just being young to slay, but actually like in age younger.
hmm.
There's literally nothing to back it up. There's just the thought I had.
Other than our own brilliant insights. Yeah, who knows?
Truth.
So Buffy says she's going to go talk to Faith, and on the way out, she runs into Scott. Is this where you have some feelings, Allie, about what Scott does?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so initially Scott is good. He's like, "Want to come to this music festival? This is going to be the last try. I promise. I don't
Yep.
want to weird you out."
Movie festival. Movie festival.
Movie festival. Sorry, what did I say?
Buster Keaton is a music.
Oh, sorry. Movie festival.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, no, you're fine. It's just that a lot of people may not know who Buster Keaton was. He was a silent film era actor. And so if you think of like Abbott and Costello, like those kinds of like silent movie era slapstick comedian, early comedy
Sounds like a
kind of
really
thing.
boring date, but that's why he didn't invite me.
No, no, I silent movies are actually, like, super fun. I watched an Abbott and Costello or no, it wasn't an Abbott and Costello. I watched a silent movie slapstick thing. They're actually really fun, and I can see it being a good time because also, like, it's all visual, so, like, they could probably keep talking, like, I don't know. I think it's a very cute, different thing. It's not just like any movie, he's asking her to this thing, it's also, like, an extended period of time. And I am all for everything up into the gift.
Yeah. Okay, you frame it out for people.
So and then even his lead up to it is very sweet. Which again, it's not an entire knock against him. I think it is well intentioned. But he's like, I found this. The guy in the shop said it's supposed to symbolize friendship, which is something I would very much like to have with you. So I got you this little gift. And we find out it's a Clada, which there's just like a lot of things about this. Like, obviously, it has very, very big significance for Buffy, which he could not possibly have foreseen. That's not on him. But giving jewelry to a girl before you've even had your first date is a lot.
A ring.
That's and a ring. That is a lot. That's a
No.
lot. And it's a very sweet intention, and I think it comes from a good place. I think it comes from also like lack of experience, naivete, and maybe some like male also lack of forethought and consequences. Just ill-advised. But again, sweet.
Yeah,
Just
Scott, you made it weird. Good try. You made it weird though.
yeah. Yeah, you kind of made it weird. Yeah, overall, like I don't think it makes it a bad guy, and I wouldn't even really consider it a red flag
Oh, I
because
would. Oh.
you think so?
Oh, yeah. I'm real weird when somebody seems too eager. Nope.
Mm.
Nope. 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 We're noping out of there. Absolutely not. We're gonna take things nice and slow and
You just take it in the context of everything he has done. Like when he asks her to dance, he's very like, I'm gonna put this on the table and then we're just gonna leave it there. You do with what you will. I'm gonna go stand over there. If you come over, great. If you don't, you don't. And he even couches the ring with like he talks about friendship. He's like, it's supposed to symbolize friendship, which is something I would like to have with you. I think of that as like, I don't know, like
and then maybe if
it
the
doesn't
girl
sound
has
off red
said she
flag for
doesn't want to
me.
dance with you, maybe don't get her a gift.
Agreed, agreed. I still think like the gift is too much. I just think that like it would not be enough that I'd be like, whoa, stalker. Like I would still be willing to give him a chance after the ring. It would make me question things, but not enough that I'd be like, this guy's creepy.
Mm. Well, that's very
Like there's a fine
forgiving of you.
line, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Eh,
Give some grace, Allie.
I don't know. He's cute. He's cute. I was single as fuck in high school. I
You
probably
would have
would
it
have seen past
up.
every red flag. I any interest, like I could have ended up in some really awful situations in high school just because I was so like single and bitter and like desperate. Like which is probably what everybody could sense on me, which is why I never had dates in high school. But yeah, I could have fallen for some really bad
I
situations
think
had
it's more that
anyone
people were intimidated by you because
offered.
you knew exactly what you wanted out of everything in life. And I think that that was scary to clueless men. I don't think that they sense desperation at all. And we're
Well,
moving on
thank
from this
you.
because I'm not hearing anything to the contrary.
Okay.
So we learn that Faith's watcher has been killed. She lied. Oops. So Buffy's like, all right, I'm gonna hightail it over there and learn more about what this. And we get to the motel where Faith is staying, and it is some shithole motel. She's fighting with the guy
Yep.
because she, I guess, needs to pay. And
Mhm.
he agrees to like walk out or whatever. And that's when Buffy says Kakistos to Faith, and she gets real spooked.
Mhm. And immediately starts packing. And this whole scene is just evidence of why Buffy always has been, always will be the greatest of all time. She is the top. She is better. There is no debate. Faith immediately hears that the big guy is coming and she's running scared. And Buffy's not having it. Like Buffy would never do that. She just wouldn't.
She not only wouldn't ever do that, but like she doesn't like Faith at this point. She has been like pretty turned off from Faith,
Mhm.
and
That too.
she's still asking kind questions like, "What did he do to
Yep.
you?" And what like she's doing it in like kind of a sassy way, but she's asking genuine questions about like how do we
Mhm.
let's you don't have to run. We can figure this out, but you have to like tell me what's happening here.
Right. Right.
He says or she says to Faith, he killed her, didn't he? And Faith says back to her, they don't have a word for what he did to her.
Mhm.
It's also just striking to me that you kind of saw Faith's eyes get wide, which was such a departure from anything we've
Mhm.
seen from like we have seen her many things in this episode, but scared is not one of them. And she's
Yeah,
scared of
like
him.
frozen scared
Yeah.
immediately. Yeah.
So then there's a knock on the door, and they open the
Mhm.
door, and Kakistos is there.
Yes, using the, hiding behind the landlord guy. I guess she's not gonna have to pay him though. That's
That's true. He's also just
helpful,
looking like a
I
real
guess,
doofus because he's dead, but you know,
because he's dead. Yeah, I also think that's, like I just want one more in, like, the inexperience or, like, lack of focus or just, like, lack of skill or whatever, like, I don't know. I feel like if Buffy looked out that same peephole, she might have noticed something was off.
maybe don't open the door.
Maybe don't open the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look like he's just got this, like, some vacant expression, like, he looks not breathing.
Right. Right. Yeah. Ugh. Good try, kids. So we cut to a commercial. When we come back, we see Faith really freak out. She screams, and Buffy kind of takes
Okay.
control, tells her to jump out the window. She follows her.
Yep. She doesn't just scream, she, like, freaks the fuck out.
Mhm.
Like, there is no calm under pressure. There is no chill.
Yeah.
We have never seen Buffy react that way, ever.
I and put a pin in that. Okay, so they all kind of run off, and we see the vamps kind of make a plan to cut them off. And so they get into what they think is relative safely. And Buffy goes, "We're okay. What happened?" And I just have a note here for Buffy. This probably, I know that you think you're in relative safety. This just like probably still is not the time to dig into things. Maybe wait till you're back home, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And then Buffy
yeah.
reassures Faith again. Faith starts talking about how she saw her watcher die by Kakistos' hand and how she couldn't stop him, and she like whatever. And Buffy
Mhm.
says the first rule of slaying: don't die. You did the right thing.
Yep.
And I
Mhm.
think that's a very beautiful gift that Buffy has given her in that moment.
Yeah, and I mean, I absolutely agree with her, despite me, like, shitting on Faith as a slayer, like, still totally agree. You are the slayer, you're the priority. Also, not knowing anything about her former watcher, like, I guarantee she was much older, age before beauty. Like, yes, absolutely the right thing that, the watch it's like the parent-child thing. Like, yes, the watcher should die in defense of their
And
slayer.
I
Like, that is
think the Watcher would probably agree with
the
that
right
too.
order of things.
Yeah.
Right, and I think any watcher would agree with that. So I do agree with Buffy. Yeah, in that instance. Rule number 1, don't die.
Number one, don't die. Buffy is kicking some ass, and Faith has totally
Mhm.
frozen. Kakistos even starts wailing on Faith at one point. And Buffy gets in, Buffy dispatches her vampires, and then even stakes Kakistos a few times too, but the stake isn't big enough. And Kakistos says, I guess you need a bigger stake, Slayer. And Faith obliges with a much bigger stake.
Yes. Yeah, and there's even a moment of where once again Faith is frozen and Buffy calls out to her, "Faith, don't die." And, just like kind of continuing this like mentor coach role of like the veteran versus
Hmm.
the green
Hmm.
new person, which again, just she's she's the top. She wins. She's because while it is Faith who does find that, like, giant 4x4 or whatever it was and rams it through, like, I don't believe for a second that Buffy wouldn't have been able to dispatch him herself. Like, she definitely got spooked a little bit once we see him get I don't even think you can call that getting staked, like, you can call it when it's something that big. You can see that,
Impaled.
like impaled, yeah, you can see that, like, she had a moment of, like, woof, that felt close. Yeah, because later Buffy says she came through in the end, and I'm like, "Eh,
She came through enough.
they
So,
you did all the work."
yeah, yeah.
It's like someone who, like, writes the entire presentation, and then someone comes in and, like, does a good job of delivering it, and it's like, but, like, if I hadn't done all the other work.
That's what mentors do, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know, I just feel like, especially coming up in the season, there's a lot of pitting Buffy against Faith
Yeah.
or pitting them against each other,
Yeah.
and a lot of comparison.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to state it right now for the record, there is no comparison.
I think it's smart
That's it.
to, yeah, stake your claim early. I'll be right there with you too.
Yeah. Yep. And also, I feel like that's also probably a pretty like typical view of like pitting women against each other,
Mhm.
all of that. I don't know. When two people are in the same position, I think it's natural to compare them. I'm just saying there is no comparison. There's no contest.
Retweet. Okay, so we're back at school. Giles has gotten the
Okay.
news that Faith is going to stay in Sunnydale, and Giles will watch them both for the time being. And Buffy gives her some nice credit. And then this is when Buffy comes clean to Willow and Giles, who are in the library, about fully what happened
Mhm.
with the Kathla. So she says, "Your spell worked at the last minute, Will." And you just see the shot of Willow, and she's just devastated to
Mhm.
hear this news. And Buffy says, "I've been holding on to that for so long. Felt good to get it out."
Okay. And I do think there is a moment where, because Willow could in this moment retaliate and be like, why didn't you tell me? She could be like very upset. But she doesn't.
Mm.
She's in this moment, she's a good friend and like seems to actually take in and comprehend the weight of what this means for Buffy. And definitely like by the time we get to this point in the episode, my comment earlier of being upset that she wasn't coming clean to Will kind of reverses, because like in this moment you really see what it was doing to her and why she didn't feel like she could tell other people.
All
So
three of them
again,
are
it
just
kind of like
so
contradicts her.
vulnerable, and you can just see they're so sad, and
Yeah.
it's a incredibly well done scene in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has a similar tone of like acknowledging without feeling the need to verbally do it, as when Buffy admits that she slept with Angel.
Mhm,
She's kind of like waiting for Giles to like
mhm,
admonish her, and he doesn't. He's
mhm.
very, very caring. And then we get this gangster level teaching moment where Buffy has left and Willow says something about like, I know you're really hesitant about me playing with magic, but I would really like to help you with this spell. And Giles says there is no spell.
Ugh. I just got shivers when you said that.
Mm-hmm. Like, whoa, that's why you're the watcher.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
knew.
Him just like something. He didn't know what it was, but he knew there was something.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
He knows his slayer.
So then Buffy waits for Scott outside of class, and she kind of goes on this ramble about basically like, can we please still go? And she has this funny line at the end. She says, "Wow, if I knew I was going to go this long, I would have brought some water. I've felt that before."
I also think that is the perfect line, acknowledging you've been rambling,
Right.
like in a fun, kind of cute way.
Breaks the
I feel
ice.
like I need to keep that in my yeah. I feel like I need to keep that in my back pocket for the next time I start.
Yeah, I like that. And
Go a little too long.
Scott is like, "I don't know, I'm really going to have to think about that." And he walks away for a second. He comes back. He's like, "I thought about it. I'm in." And that's a cute moment from him. And Buffy says she just has to do
It's
one
very cute.
thing, and then she's free. And then she goes to the mansion where Angel was killed, or she killed Angel. Sorry, passive voice is doing some work
Mhm.
there. And she lays the Clawda on the ground. And then what a twist this is. Do you want to tell people what it was?
Twist. Yeah, I'm still dying to know, like, historically, what was this building?
Mm,
Di Dying to know. Just, like, curiosity. I'm sure someone has on the internet or something like, "What was this building previously?" Like, surely no one just, like, lived in this place. Like, this isn't a mansion that, like, someone built for themselves, right? Like, what is this place? Anyway, um, so screen goes dark. We After Buffy lays the cloud on the ground, we think, all right, episode's over. We're about to hear some girl arc. But then a light shines on the Clada. Clada starts rumbling, and then sexy naked angel is dropped from the sky. Know if we're supposed to be like, who's that? Because there is a moment at the very end when he like tiredly lifts his head and we can see that it's Angel. I don't know. I feel like I would notice that profile turned
Yeah,
around,
yeah, I don't think he needed the
drugged and
slow lift up.
blindfolded.
Yeah,
Um,
to
it's very dramatic, but like we all knew who it was. And something very interesting.
He's also sweaty, and I want that marked for the
Also,
record.
that, yeah,
Sorry, keep going.
yep, yep, yeah. He's been keeping it tight in hell. Uh, Hella fine. um, no, and I had a thought, sort of realization that I don't think it's a spoiler because it's a lack of answer. I don't think we ever get an answer for why he's brought
As to
back.
what brought him back, I had that thought. I remember
Yeah.
as I was watching, I was like, "Oh, I should Google that and see," because I didn't think that we got. I think that we can make some speculations, but I don't think it's ever answered for real, for real. Um,
Yeah, I think later we get some similar level divine intervention
yeah,
that I think based on the reason behind that, we can apply it to
yep,
this. That it's just like clearly the powers that be decided it should be so. But I don't think I certainly don't ever think it's stated
right.
uh why he's brought back. He just is.
I think you're right. It may not even be well, we can I have another theory that's occurring to me now as we talk, but I don't want to say it on recording and spoil it. Yeah, I think that's a interesting analysis, Allie. Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have other thoughts or can I jump into trivia and then hot takes?
Jump in.
Okay. Trivia. So the band playing at the Bronze is Darling Violet, and they will later do the theme for the spinoff Angel. Isn't that interesting?
Wow. That is interesting.
This is my Mr. Trick trivia. He was originally in the running for the role of Spike.
Interesting. That was not my guess. My guess about the trivia was that I thought you were gonna say that he was initially supposed to be just in this episode, but everybody liked him so much they kept him back.
Oh, interesting.
Which happens a lot more often than you would think.
Yeah,
That's where like you being a joy to work with also comes in. Like people really liking your character and like people just really liking you. It happens all the time that it's supposed to be a one-off character and then they're like, just keep bringing him back.
that's really cool too because it hasn't reached audience. They don't have audience feedback at this point. It's just intuition of the
Yeah.
people on set being like, yeah, this character is going to resonate.
Yeah. Yeah. Theoretically. Oh, so interesting.
It would have been a way
Huh.
different Spike, but I think speaks to like how we
Mhm.
both were like, this character is awesome. I think that
Mhm.
there's, I don't know, there's something there.
Well, and I did have a thought about Spike because I was thinking of like he kind of takes that character's role for
Hmm.
this season because I like had a moment of, oh wait, oh yeah, we don't see Spike this season. Maybe even at all?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he like after
Yeah, I
everything
think
that
you're
goes down
right.
with Darla, I think he like drives off and is just like, fuck this town.
Yeah.
Which like fair. And Sunnydale's not been kind to you. Nor should it be, but whatever. So yeah, I was kind of thinking like, well, Trick kind of like fills that same role within the show. So that makes sense that he like was also in line for that
Strangely
character.
lovable villain, yeah. So the title of the episode was named deliberately without an Oxford comma and with an ampersand. I just want to be clear for the purposes of our branding. I don't care. I'm adding in the Oxford comma and we're spelling out and we're not using the ampersand. I can't do it. I'm sorry. So, but that was a deliberate choice that we're saying
Interest. But
respect that and reject.
but this doesn't make any sense.
No, no, it doesn't. No, it's stupid.
Because if you're intentionally leaving out the Oxford comma, that means you're drawing a connection between Hope and Trick, which makes no sense at all.
Correct.
Those are two characters that never interact. That makes no sense.
I agree with you, which is part of the reason why we're not abiding by it.
Yeah, because yeah, if we could justify it, then I would contradict you and say that we should leave out the comma. But Oxford commas are there for a reason, and I will die on that hill.
I'll ruin the party with you. All right, my last piece of trivia is that okay, you remember the nice Happy Burger employee who I victim blamed?
Yes.
The actor's name is Zach Hudson, and he is going to come back playing a monster in the future. So we will see that charming gentleman who was an idiot standing there.
Oh,
Yep. Just
interesting.
a little,
Okay.
little fun
Well,
fact.
good job, Zach.
Good job,
Must have
Zach.
been nice on set that they brought you back.
All right. Hot takes. I have something. I have been talking a lot, though. I don't want to talk over you. If you have something that we haven't gotten to talk about yet that you'd like to bring up.
No, I haven't. Full disclosure, I keep forgetting about our hot take section. I usually just like say it within the course of the episode. So yeah, and I don't think it's a hot take because I would yell at anybody who didn't agree. I think Buffy is surrounded by not good friends. I think there were a lot of people who were not in her corner this episode, and that is fucking shitty.
I agree with
And that's
that.
about it.
That kind of relates to my hot take, actually, is that her friends, Buffy's friends, not only let Buffy down, but they let Faith down too. Because Faith is
Mm.
clearly deeply traumatized. And I feel really bad for her. She
Mm.
can't afford the motel is $18 a day, and she can't afford it. She's eating off Buffy's plate, and Buffy's annoyed. Buffy's already annoyed with Faith, but Buffy's mom isn't like, why is she so hungry that is there something else happening? Like, where is
Yeah.
she staying? What's happening here? Faith wails on that vampire in the alley, and Buffy is like, something's not right here. And Giles, as the adult, should have been like, yeah, she said what? She said, you can't touch me. And she said, my dead mother hits harder than like this girl clearly
Right.
has. And Faith has this other line. There's no words for what he did to her. As I was doing research, somebody on Reddit noted that given that comment, along with everything else we know, that it wouldn't be surprising and just the fact that like Faith is a violent person and she still can't say what Kakistos did to the Watcher. This commenter was like, was there sexual assault there? Was there like,
That's exactly where my head went to. Yeah. The way, because specifically the stuff that she's saying about, like, "Don't you touch me, you can't touch me," all of
yeah.
that stuff, like yeah. No, my head was going to the exact same place. Like, if we're talking about, because 'cause we've seen torture,
Mhm.
and they talked about Angel killing puppies. We've heard a lot about that kind of thing, and they've certainly said more about, like, what Angel, Drusilla, Darla, Spike used to do. So for them to not say it, I agree. I agree. I would not be surprised if they were like, "Yeah, we meant it was something sexual."
And just the fact, and Buffy is the one who is most put off by Faith in general, rightfully so. And Buffy still, she doesn't get it like totally, but she gets that there's something about this that isn't adding up.
Mhm.
And all of the
Yep.
people around her just get like wrapped up in how exciting she is. And they not only let Buffy
Mhm.
down, they also let Faith down.
I totally agree, especially I would almost give the Scooby Kids a bit of a pass,
Mm,
as they are still kids. And I think there are things that, especially when you're growing up stable, like the Scoobies do, they have their things and stuff, but they all have roofs over their head. They all have clothing. They're going to school. They all eat, all of that. I think there are questions that they wouldn't think to ask, like, where is she staying?
mhm, mhm,
Where are her parents? Okay, her watcher's not in town, but how is she being taken care of? How did she get to Sunnydale? Like, all of
mhm,
that.
mhm.
I think that, like, in that stable point of view, like, you maybe wouldn't even think to ask those questions. Joyce and Giles are not given the same pass.
Mhm,
Joyce, as a parent, should have been wondering, where are you staying?
mhm.
Again, like you said, noticing the signs of, like, oh, not just like, oh, she's a hungry teen after out slaying. Like, no, she is scarfing down food in a way that is not just like a teenager being hungry. That is someone who's like, I don't know where our next meal's coming at.
Mm.
And especially Giles should have asked once even if he's like, oh yeah, off at the retreat, again, should have been asking, okay, so what's your deal? What's going on? All of
Yeah,
that.
how
So
did you
yeah, I
get
agree. I
here? Yeah,
completely agree
where
with
are
your
you
hot.
staying?
Yeah.
Yeah, who is you're
Hmm.
staying there? No, we should get you
Right.
we'll get you set up somewhere
Right.
else.
Like, why didn't Joyce ask, where are you saying, why don't you stay here?
Yeah, yeah.
All of that.
Okay, so you've helped me. Yeah, the kids were kind of shitty friends, but it was like the adults who were the real failures here.
Right. They were shitty friends, and I agree that they let Buffy down. I give them a bit of a pass on the Faith stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Hmm.
As far as her well-being, they should have immediately been on Buffy's side with like, something's not right here. I don't know about this chick.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yep, totally agree.
Cool.
As usual, on the same page. All right, well, I think that about does it for this episode, right, Nick?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for today's episode. And we hope you'll join us next time when we'll discuss season 3, episode 4, Beauty and the Beasts.
That's a tough one. Oof, that's a tough one. If you're just too excited to wait until the next episode to chat, send us an email at tabularasabpod@gmail.com. That is tabularasabpod@gmail.com. You can also say hello to us on Instagram or TikTok at tabularasabpod. I will once again flag Allie's great plug to please leave a rating or review and share this with anyone who you think might be interested. And Allie, I just got a notification that my Buy Me a Coffee for You got renewed. So that's good. Can you go ahead and plug that and plug how people can find you on social media?
I absolutely can. So, for those of you who would like more Allie-Press content, you can go to Instagram at daughterpick, DAUGHTERPICK, or over on the TikTok at Future Black Cat.
Allie, why
And
is
if you
your
would like
handle
to,
Future Black Cat?
because I would like to play Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat, for Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is also why I moved here to Atlanta. Great segue, because I am a new artist in a new town, need new headshots, need new all the things, classes and such, still looking for representation. So if you would like to give a helping hand, you can head on over to buymeacoffee.com/Allie-Press, ALLIEPRESS. And you can toss me a few bucks. You can keep up with my journey with my blog posts. I am trying to get back and a little more regular with those now that there's actually progress to report on. So you can read about my life as an actor in a new town over on that Buy Me a Coffee/Allie-Press. And if you don't want to read about my blogs, that is also fine. You can go straight to Venmo at Allie-Press. And that's me.
Well, it is just such a treat for me to be able to be in on the supporting Allie-Press action early. It's also an insurance policy for me so that you don't forget me when you're rich and famous. So, do
That is
have any friends.
no. None of that. That is the most ridiculous
I
thing
know
that people
you
comment
hate
at
when
me.
I say that.
I've said that I do, because the people who end up saying that, they're like, don't forget me when you're famous. They're all people who that would be absolutely preposterous if I were to forget you. I would have to literally hit my head and go into a fugue state in order for me to forget you. So that is the dumbest thing for you to say in the whole world. If I forget you when I'm famous, I didn't remember you when I wasn't famous. I said it. So there we go.
Great. Well, I'm glad that we ended this episode.
That's my hot take.
Glad we ended this episode
Ending this
calling
out
me
with
dumb.
Allie.
That's great. I think you're dumb, Allie. And all of those social media handles are going to be in the description. I'm obsessed with you. Never change. This has been fun.
You're a precious, precious gift. And I look forward to your face all the time. And I watch you while you sleep. All of you out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, make proud choices. We love you. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.
Tabula Rasa Bitches is hosted by Allie-Press and Nick Mercer, with music by Inflaton Cult, artwork by Charlotte Fleming Design, and consultation by Evo Terra.